Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Siboga TV, which is your number one online political channel. It is now very clear that Fred Matiang'I is actually very serious and he wants to run for presidency of this nation. And it has come out that he will use Jubilee Party as his vehicle of stepping at presidency. And you know why he is using that party. And Jubilee is actually being led by the former president, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. But stepping at presidency is not something very easy to do. It is something that you must be able to organize yourself. You must organize yourself psychologically that I am going to step at presidency. So you must be psychologically fit. You must be able to organize yourself physically, because physically you must be able to be presidential. And also, you must be able to organize yourself economically. That means you must have enough finances so that you can run the presidential election. And you must also know various things you must do for you to be quite attractive. So, if you were to be asked that what should Fred Matiang'I do so that his dream of becoming the president of this nation will come to pass? In other words, what kind of advices or pieces of advice will you give to Fred Matiang'I? And that is actually what I want us to have as a candid discussion. But before we dive in and try to dissect to what is expected, to what Fred Matiang'I must do so that he can be successful on his bid towards presidency of this nation, I could request you kindly to take a minute and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give this video a like. Share the video to your friends, and if they are lovers of politics, then it is good to request them for us to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And also, if you have subscribed to this YouTube channel, then it's good also to hit the notification bell so that at any moment we upload any political video, YouTube can be in that position to notify you so that you can watch the content. And by doing all those things is actually for free. But you could have helped this YouTube to grow and to flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, let us now go back to the discussion of the day. You are the advisor of Fred Matiang'I, and you have been told to give pieces of advice to Fred Matiang'I on how he is going to carry himself so that he can step at presidency and win. Let come 2027. What will you tell Fred Matiang'I? For me, the first thing I have to tell Fred Matiang'I is actually to do rebranding of Jubilee Party. He must realize that people have been knowing Jubilee, and Jubilee Party is known to have ruled in this republic for a period of 10 years. And therefore, rebranding that party is very essential so that it can give the party a new look. It can give the party what we call the appeal to the audience. So, Fred Okengo Matiang'I must first rebrand Jubilee as a political party. So, branding must be done and must be of high notch. So, that's the first thing that Fred Okengo Matiang'I must actually do. The second thing Fred must do is actually to have a political network across this nation. That means he must form a political network which actually reaches any corner of this republic. For example, if you look at UDA as a political party, if you go to one side of Northeastern, you go to a certain ward or village, you are likely to get somebody who is associated to UDA, a person who hold a certain position within UDA, a person who can be used by the party to mobilize at that part of the country, at that sect, or at that unit. And that means that UDA has a good network which is covering across the nation. And therefore, for Fred Okengo Matiang'I to be successful, he must have a very well elaborated political network across the nation. So that is the second thing he must do. And Jubilee as a political party, it must open offices across the nation. And I can say that it must have offices up to village levels or at least to ward levels. And therefore from ward levels, then it can move to village levels. Because that is the only thing which will help Fred Okengo Matiang'I to do proper mobilization. So Fred Okengo Matiang'I need to have that proper networking. So he must have that structure well formed. So that's the second thing I have to advise Fred Okengo Matiang'I. Thirdly, Fred Okengo Matiang'I must have a slogan. If you look at Rigathi Gachagua, and why sometimes people love Rigathi Gachagua, because he has a slogan. When he talks about one term, that slogan is actually associated with him. So he has a slogan. He has a clarion call, which people understand, which actually people identifies with Rigathi Gachagua. And Fred Okengo Matiang'I must have a slogan. If he wants to give hope to this nation, then he must have a slogan which is centered towards giving hope to the people. So that is very important. He must have a slogan and he must come up with a very good slogan. A slogan that will inspire people. A slogan that will motivate people. A slogan that will activate people. So that is the third thing that Fred Okengo Matiang'I must do. Another thing that Fred Okengo must do, he must form a certain committee. And the role of that committee is to look into coalition building, is actually to advise him about coalition building, because coalition building is very, very important. Look at what President William Samoei Arap Ruto is doing. Whoever knew that President William Samoei Arap Ruto was going to work with Gideon Moi? Whoever knew that it will reach a time when Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga was going to work with William Samoei Arap Ruto? Whoever know or knew that our former president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was actually going to work with William Samoei Arap Ruto? And you may not be embarrassed to see even Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka moving from the Wamnyoro group and joining William Samoei Arap Ruto. That can happen. And why is that happening? It is because William Samoei Arap Ruto is very smart at forming alliances. And therefore, Fred Matiang'I must have a team which is capable and which will inform him on how to go about building up coalition. Because once you will build a proper coalition, that coalition will actually enable him to win. So Fred Matiang'I must have a proper, elaborate team which will actually be advising him about coalition building. And I know he understands that in Kenya, you cannot run for presidency you alone. If William Samoei Ruto understands that he cannot stop at presidency and wins alone, what about Fred Matiang'I, a person who has never been in politics for long enough? So Fred must do that. So that's another thing that Fred Matiang'I must be advised to do. Then another thing, he must have a well-elaborated secretariat. The secretariat which will actually organize all the functions that he is supposed to do or to attend. So that is also very important. So that secretariat is there to tell him, Mr. President or Mr. our candidate, there is something you have not done. Our leader, there is something you have not done. And you need to do it. And you need to do it within this time limit. So those are the things that he must do. And lastly, he must know ways of having enough resources for campaign. He must have enough economical backing. He must have enough money for campaigning. So he must have people who will help him to source out money for campaigning. So those are the things that if I was to be given a chance to advise Fred Matiang'I, I could advise him to do so that it can be very easy for him to succeed at the presidency. And he must always make sure that he raises above being tribal in your own understanding. If you were given that role of advising Fred Matiang'I, what will you tell Fred Matiang'I? Please drop your comment in the comment section below. And if this is your first time to pump into this YouTube channel, I request you kindly to take a minute and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give this video a like, share the video to your friends, and if your friends are lovers of politics, then it's good to request them for us to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And for that, I say thank you. May God bless you all abundantly until we meet in our next political discussion. Goodbye.